Good afternoon, and thank you so much for inviting me to your community. I'm the executive director of the Michigan College Access Network. We are positioned as a nonprofit organization based in Lansing. So our mission, very aligned to that of Lumina Foundation that you heard from this morning, is to increase the college readiness, participation, and completion rates in Michigan, particularly among low-income students, first-generation college-going students, and students of color. We have formally adopted the Lumina Foundation goal that Tina mentioned, which is to have 60% of Michigan adults possessing a post-secondary degree or credential by the year 2025. As she mentioned, Michigan as a state is below the national average at about 37% of folks possessing an associate degree, and in Berry County, as with most rural counties in Michigan, is significantly below that. So I want to push back a little bit on some of the things that were said this morning in a really very respectful way, or in a way that I guess maybe just puts a new frame or a lens on some of the things that were said. And I'm heading back to Lansing after this, so if you all disagree, you can discuss that after I leave. So the word college is in our name, and I hope you can consider the word college as something that's more inclusive than exclusive. I think it's really dangerous to say that college is not for all. I think maybe a more positive and inclusive way of framing this issue as you move forward with your strategic planning for education is to redefine the word college. So I'll tell you how MCAN defines it, and I hope this comes up as a topic as you start to discuss this afternoon. So first is that college is post-secondary education. So Paul and I think are on exactly the same page. So instead of saying college is not for all, some people will go to trade and technical school, why don't we say trade and technical school is college? I think it's a more positive sort of frame to wrap around your students. So at MCAN, we define college as post-secondary education. And so when I use the term college, I use the term college synonymously with post-secondary educational attainment, which is a lot of syllables and a complicated term, but post-secondary educational attainment includes the attainment of a valuable credential post-high school. So that could be a technical or a professional certificate. It could be an associate degree. It could be a bachelor's degree or beyond. Our message is that a high school diploma or a GED as your terminal certificate is not enough to compete in the 21st century economy, particularly in Michigan, as we've gone through this really rough transition from a manufacturing-based economy to a knowledge-based economy. Another piece of paper beyond high school is sort of a clunky way of saying it, or at least one piece of paper beyond a high school diploma, potentially getting a technical certificate, and then having the opportunity to stack more credentials above and beyond that is a different way. So we do think that college is a necessity, so that's the sort of meeting the labor market demands, being able to make a wage that supports a family, and also giving you the tools and skills to be adaptable as the labor market and the economy continues to change. Because college is a necessity, everyone must pursue college, broadly defined, beyond high school. Third, that college is for everyone. So as Fred mentioned, I don't think we can or should put students in categories. You are a college-bound student, you are not a college-bound student. Rather, we should say all of our students are college-bound, or all of our students are post-secondary bound. That path that they take can look differently, but the way we've set up the system where has really led to some pretty significant gaps in our communities in our state and certainly in our country, between low-income students and their more affluent counterparts, between students of color and white students, between students who are first in their family to go to college like I am, and those that are not. So we at MCAN are really committed to closing those gaps. And then lastly, that college is a public good, and Tina touched on this. Although there are individual benefits that can be reaped from having a college degree or post-secondary credential, the benefits that it plays out in your community are just as big and quantifiable. So there's obviously this idea of a talent dividend, that your community will derive a lot more income flowing when wages go up due to a higher educated workforce. But then also things like voting goes up, volunteerism rates go up, smoking goes down, need for public benefits goes down. There's all of these benefits that are derived that crime goes down, that we all take advantage of when the proportion of our workforce is more educated. So that's how I define college. You all can certainly define it for your community. So at MCAN, our primary strategy in reaching Goal 2025, and I could talk for a long time about our other strategies, but the only one I'm going to talk about today is the development of local college access networks. So my board and I have decided that we are going to put most of our time, energy, and staff resources into helping communities that are ready to rally around college access and success, support, funding, technical assistance. So we, as an organization, support the creation, expansion, and sustainability of high-quality local college access networks, otherwise known as LCANs, through consulting and funding. So earlier on the panel, you heard from Julie from the Great Start Collaborative. In a lot of ways, you can think of MCAN as sort of the analogy to the Early Childhood Investment Corporation at the state. So just like they are the statewide coordinating body for Great Start Collaboratives, for local efforts rallying around that 0 to 5 population, MCAN, we sometimes are thought of as that equivalent in that high school to transition space in particular. So coordinating leaders in the community around that space to make sure our students are ready for post-secondary education, socially ready, academically ready, informationally ready, and financially ready for college. We support currently 51 local college access networks across the state, including Navigate, which is Berry County's local college access network. In terms of the basics of what an LCAN does, again, you should think of an LCAN as a coalition or an alliance of leaders across sectors committed to increasing the post-secondary educational attainment rate of their community. Each alliance has a leadership team composed of high-level leaders from K-12, higher ed, business, philanthropy, the nonprofit sector, and government. We also, like Diana Seeger from the Grand Rapids Community Foundation, heavily buy into the collective impact framework. So remember, she said it's collaboration on steroids. That's what our LCANs are. They are designed to be highly structured, highly coordinated collaborative efforts, as opposed to isolated programs, isolated interventions that are layered on top of what's already going on. So LCANs are not programs. LCANs are not, another scholarship night at the local high school or a campus visit for third graders. Rather, it's sort of a new way of doing business that's more strategic and intentional around making sure our students are ready for college, are enrolling in college, and in completing college. Functionally, LCANs do a couple of things on the front end and then sort of continue these functions as they operate. They agree on a vision for their community. So many of our LCANs, but not all, adopt Goal 2025. They say by the year 2025, we want 60% of our community residents to have a college degree or post-secondary credential, and that's what I would remind everyone that's our mission statement, is to be inclusive of post-secondary credentials that are of high quality, and the Lumina Foundation aligns with that. They established very clear goals around a handful of metrics that they want to track in their community. So things like post-secondary aspiration rates, college readiness rates, FAFSA completion rates, college enrollment, college persistence, college completion, and ultimately the attainment of the community. What proportion of our adults have possess one of these degrees or credentials beyond high school? They start to, in a very real way, align organizations to this one common vision or these common metrics, so that instead of organizations kind of all having a different version of a similar goal, that they actually all start adopting the big goal and then the metrics underneath it, and ultimately do a better job coordinating organizations. We encourage all of our communities to do an asset mapping process on the front end, and what we've seen countless times is communities find that they have 6 mentoring programs, but not one of them is necessarily focused on helping students complete the FAFSA so that they have a Pell Grant to fund their pursuits at the community college in a nursing degree. So by kind of tweaking a couple of the organizations to have a more clear focus on FAFSA completion or ACT prep or career exploration, they're better able to stop duplicating efforts and instead fill gaps toward our common goals. Each LCAN does a deep dive into their data to identify what their community's highest priority areas, and then form action teams to address those priorities. Very similar to some of the strategic planning processes that you have all talked about, that the Great Start Collaborative talked about this morning. And ultimately, LCANs hold each other accountable for success. We, by design, have our LCANs be representative of those 6 sectors: K-12, higher ed, business, philanthropy, the nonprofit sector, and government, because this is not an opportunity to blame K-12 for not doing their part, or not to blame colleges for not doing their part, or not to blame the foundation for not giving enough scholarships. This is an opportunity for us to kind of say, we're all in this together. We all rise or we all fall, and hold each other jointly accountable for moving community level outcomes on the indicators that are selected. Diana talked about the definition of collective impact. Again, she mentioned Kenya and Kramer as the authors of this framework. It's a really short read, and I would highly, highly, highly recommend reading this article, this framework, as you get started with this process. Each community has a dashboard. So one of the conditions of collective impact is shared measurement system. So again, the community not agreeing on 100 metrics that they are going to be tracking and looking at, but looking at a handful of metrics related to this college readiness space. So this is an example of one of our LCANs, St. Clair County. St. Clair County has adopted the Know How to Go branding that Tina mentioned and that's on your tables as their network. And so this is their college access dashboard. They have 6 or 7 metrics that they track and hold each other accountable for moving, and publish this every year, not just amongst their partners, but transparently to the public. And you can see where there are red arrows, where their numbers are tracking down, it's a really great indication that that needs to be a priority for their community moving forward. Again, this is just a visual representation of this idea of collaboration on steroids. Instead of all of our organizations kind of pointing in different directions and tackling different problems in a little bit different way, how do we really align ourselves so that we are all pointing toward the same goal but taking on very specific pieces of the pipeline, while also at the same time addressing high-need priority areas that the community's data is telling us that we need to focus on. So We have learned a lot so we've been around for 3 years, and in that 3 years, we've established 50 local college access networks throughout the state. We have taken the last year with some funding from Lumina Foundation to actually catalog that information and those best practices for how communities are organizing around college access, and actually wrote it down into our framework. So communities like Berry County can, should they choose, take advantage of our tools, our resources, and the best practices that we've learned from other communities. So as LCANs are starting to embark on this work, we really recommend that they do exactly what you are doing right now, which is have some sort of convening of leaders in a community that care about this issue to talk about the possibility of better organizing themselves around these metrics, and start to really have a dialogue, which is what you're going to be doing this afternoon. You know, is there an urgency for change in the community? Are there leaders that are willing to be influential champions for this cause? And are there organizations that are willing to commit some financial resources to help support this? MCAN's one organization that is ready and willing and able to help provide financial resources to get you started. We also have developed a sort of 10-step strategic planning process that's in the context of college access in Michigan using the collective impact framework. And it's all laid out in a guidebook that Bonnie has a copy of, and that is available for download for free on our website, called Charting the Course, and it's a community's guide for tackling this work as it relates to organizing around increasing educational attainment.